from.
Federal court judge
Interestingly, John Howard said to you about the Brittany Higgins matter, with some sort of incredulity, why did we apologise? Why didn't we just stick to the tried and true formula, which is we're not going to comment on this, it's a matter going through the courts? But I think if Scott Morrison had done that, he would have been flayed alive. What do you think? Would that have been a better course for Scott Morrison than apologising, giving Brittany Higgins a payout, leaving women in his own government feeling abandoned and kind of enraging everybody else at the same time?
I think the Brittany Higgins issue exposed some of Scott Morrison's character flaws and the fact that he had great difficulty coming to grips with this particular issue. Someone who was a very assured politician on most fronts, who saw himself as a pretty reliable political fixer, who had a pretty astute capacity to read the electorate. He was at all attachment to the truth when it came to this issue. You've quoted Linda Reynolds, I think, correctly when she says that she doesn't think that Scott Morrison was a misogynist, and I think that's correct, but he did run very much a boy's own annual type government, and I think that's also correct. But the really important point to make here is that at the end of the day, when Brittany Higgins, a couple of years later, decided to go public and reveal what had happened to her, that is, that she'd been raped, she did this in terms of a coordinated attack on the Morrison government. And the argument was that the Morrison government had engaged in a cover-up, that it hadn't been concerned about her at all, that it was prepared to sacrifice her career, that it was concerned about its own political fortunes. And she coordinated this assault on the Morrison government with the Labor Party. And in particular in the Senate, we saw the attack led by Penny Wong and Katie Gallagher, and the accusation, of course, against Morrison and against Linda Reynolds was that this was all cover-up, that they'd known about the rape, they hadn't cared about it, they hadn't properly addressed the issue of Brittany Higgins, they didn't really care about her, they were only concerned about their own political necks. Now, these claims were false.
Particularly significant.
They have demonstrated to be false at great length in the federal court in the long decision he made. So I think this is particularly important. So we've got the Brittany Higgins situation.
That a rape didn't happen.
Scott Morrison did not handle it well
so it's very
in a
significant
political sense.
From that perspective,
he did
it's
not
significant,
show
I think, for rape.